Good morning, boys and girls. I hope that you're having a great day so far, a great morning. Happy Friday. Um, I really enjoyed making these videos for you guys this week. Like I said before, it kind of feels like we're back at school where I'm teaching you, so I've really enjoyed this. Today's video covers packet number 2, day 5. So that's what our video today is about. So let's go ahead and start right into it. Let's look at the reading section by day 5. So that says, read the book Silent E. Read it to yourself 2 times, then read it to a family member. Answer the questions with a family member. So the book Silent E is 2 pages in your packet, and it looks like this. So I will read it to you once, and then you need to practice reading it to yourself twice, and then read it to a family member once, and a family member can help you with the questions that are the next page in the packet. These are the questions that go along with it. Okay, so this book is called Silent E. And think about what that means. We know when there's a silent E at the end of a word, like in the word hate. There's a silent E on the end that we don't hear, and that silent E makes this vowel say its name. We call that a VCE pattern because there's a vowel, a consonant, and then a silent E. Remember, a consonant is any letter other than the vowels. So our vowels are A, E, I, O, U. We've got a vowel, consonant, silent E. Now, if I take my E off, that completely changes the word. It's no longer a long A where it says its name. A, hate. That becomes a short A now, and the word is now hat. That's our short A sound. So it totally changes the word. So this book is all about what that silent E can do when we add it to the end of a word. It completely changes what the word is and what it means. So that's what our book is about, and let's get started. So it's called Silent E. No one hears me coming, yet they know when I'm there. I change what words mean. I change how words sound. Watch me work. I change cap into cape. So it's saying when we look at the word cap, that's a short A. But when that magical silent E comes, now it's changed the word into cape. That's what it means. And we've got that V, C, E pattern, vowel, consonant, silent E, that makes that vowel long. And now it says cape. So now I'll flip to the next page. Watch me work. I change tub into tube. Watch me work. I change can into cane. Watch me work. I change twin into twine. I change what words mean. I change how words sound. I am silent E. So let's look at some of the other words that in the book magical silent E changes. So it said, watch me work. I changed tub. And when the silent E comes in, now what's that word? See if you can say it on your own. Tube. It changes the U from short tub to long. Tube. Ooh, U. It says its name. That silent E makes the vowel say its name. And we've got that VCE pattern again. Next one, he says, watch me work. I change can into, what is it now? Cane. I changed twin. What do you think twin will be with an E on the end? Twine. Still changes that vowel to, instead of twin, it now says I, twine. We hear it say its own name because of that, all the power of that silent E. That vowel, consonant, silent E pattern. So now that you've read, well, we've read the story together, you need to read it 2 times to yourself and then read it to a family member. And then your packet says answer the questions with a family member. So if you need some help, you can do this with a family member. So these questions, let's look at the first one. The first one says, what does the word pin change into? So that question is asking you, I'll write the whole one. What does So your first question says, what does the word pin change into? So it's asking you, when this magical silent E comes in, what does it change the word to? A, pins, B, pine, or C, pen? Think about what we've talked about. The E doesn't come in and change the vowel. It's just added to the end. It's a silent E. So think about which one of these would be the correct answer then. The silent E always goes on the end of a word to make the vowel that is already there long. So keep that in mind. The next question is, who is the main character in the story? We should know that easy. Question number 3 says, what happens after can changes into cane? So it's asking you what the next page of the book says. So you can have the silent E book in front of you while you're answering the questions, because that would be pretty helpful, I think. Then question 4, what causes the words to change in this story? Number 5, listen to the sentence. The girl heard a loud sound. Which word means the same as sound? And then you'll look at the choices. And then number 6, if you want to stretch your learning even farther, it says, have the student write what the author hopes the reader learns from this story. What do you think the author wanted you to learn from this? They wrote a whole book called Silent E. So what do you think that author wants you to take away from this book? Think about that, and then you can write that in a sentence or 2 at the bottom of the page or on another piece of paper. So your job will be to read the question and pick the answer that is correct. So that's for your reading on the packet. Next, in the writing section for today, this goes right along with what we just talked about with the silent E. Writing says make a list of 10 words with the VCE pattern. So we said that the VCE pattern stands for vowel, consonant, silent E. So the examples that your packet gives you are bike, mile, and lane. So They all don't have to have the same vowel because the pattern is just vowel, consonant, silent, E. So that vowel can be any of our vowels, A, E, I, O, U. So for bike, we see the vowel, consonant, silent, E, which will make that I say its name. So bike, I, we hear that I sound. Here we see another vowel, consonant, silent E, and that silent E makes this vowel say its name. Mile, I, we hear the name of the letter I. And then we have an example with a different vowel. A, that's our vowel. Vowel, consonant, silent E. And that silent E does its job and makes that vowel say its name. Lane, A. We hear the name of the letter A. So think about all of the words that have this pattern in them. There are so many. If you think of the word broke, that could be another one. Vowel, consonant, silent, E. Remember, a consonant is any letter that is not a vowel. So, as long as it has this VCE pattern, it will work. Broke, O. We hear the name of the letter O. Now, you have to write, your job is to make a list of 10 words that have this VCE pattern. So these are our examples. I want you to try and come up with different ones. Don't use the ones that I gave you or your packet gave you. Come up with your own. There are lots of words that have those patterns. So try and do that by yourself. Oop, let me look the camera focused. So that's what you're doing for writing. Just making a list of 10 words that have that VCE pattern in them, which will make the vowel long or short. Long. There's a silent E on the end. It makes that vowel say its name. For math, just like every day, it says write the name of the game you chose. Game at the end of packet 1 or packet 2 that you played with a family member. Write the name of it in your packet. Next, we've got a new word problem for today. Yesterday's was a little bit tricky. We had the feet and the tail, and you had to tell us how many people, how many pets were in the house. So today our word problem is, your directions say, solve the following word problem on paper and explain your thinking with pictures, numbers, and words. So we need all three. Maria, before I almost read you the problem before doing our practice one. We're going to do a practice problem first. So I'm going to say, okay. Mrs. Turner had 11 pencils. Mrs. Bowman had 5 pencils. How many more pencils did Mrs. Turner have? So the question is asking, how many more pencils did Mrs. Turner have than Miss Bowman? How many more? We already know that Mrs. Turner had 11 and Mrs. Bowman had 5. But we want to know how many more pencils Mrs. Turner had than Mrs. Bowman had. So we need pictures, numbers, and words to help us solve this problem. So what I'm going to do, we're going to set up the problem. And then I like to use our 10 frame. It's something that we use in class. It's something that you guys are familiar with. If drawing pictures like we did yesterday helps you more, you can do that. Or if you like using our 10 frame, I think that's a great strategy. Now, we have 11. So am I going to need to draw one 10 frame or two? How many things can a 10 frame hold? It's in the name, 10. So if I have more than 10, I'm going to need to draw two 10 frames. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw two 10 frames. Make sure you can see that. Perfect. Awesome. So it says Mrs. Turner had 11 pencils. So first things first, I am going to fill in 11 boxes. Now, I know how many a 10 frame holds. So should I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? No. If this 10 frame is full, I can say that's 10. And one more is 11. That's how many Mrs. Turner has. Now what we want to do is, we know how many Mrs. Bowman has, but we want to figure out how many more Mrs. Turner has than Mrs. Bowman. So what we're going to do is we're starting out with Mrs. Turner's 11, and we want to take away the number that Mrs. Bowman had, because that will tell us how many more Mrs. Turner had. If we take away 5, that's how many Mrs. Bowman had, and we want to see how many are left over, because that's how many more Mrs. Turner had. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase 1. How many should I be doing? 2, 3, 4, 5. I just took away Mrs. Bowman's 5 pencils, and I'm left with this much. That tells me that this much is how many more Mrs. Turner had than Mrs. Bowman. So did I add 5 or take 5 away? I erased them, so I took them away. So that tells me that my sign is subtraction. I took away Mrs. Bowman's 5, and I'm left with how many? We shouldn't have to count one at a time. 2, 4, 6. I'm left with 6. That tells me that Mrs. Turner had 6 more pencils than Mrs. Bowman. But let's test that out. I'm going to do a little picture up here so you guys can see it. If I give them both 5, I'm going to put a T for Turner and a B for Bowman. I know that Mrs. Bowman had 5, so I'm stopping her there. Let's count on to see how many more Mrs. Turner had to get her to that number 11. So Mrs. Turner has 5. I'm going to count on until I get to 11. 1, 2, or excuse me, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So my job now, Mrs. Bowman has 5, Mrs. Turner has 11. Let me count how many I added on to give Mrs. Turner 11. 2, 4, 6. I was right. Mrs. Turner has 6 more pencils than Mrs. Bowman. And I've got my pictures, my numbers. To get my words in there, my answer would be Mrs. Turner had 6 more pencils than Mrs. Bowman. It's a little scrunched at the bottom, but you know what I mean. Mrs. Turner had 6 more pencils than Mrs. Bowman. So, that was the problem that we did together. Now I am going to give you the problem that's in your packet, and your job, it's very similar. That means it's very alike the one that we just did together. So the one in your packet says, Maria has 9 pennies. Her sister has 5 pennies. Okay. Maria has 9 pennies. Her sister has 5 pennies. How many more pennies does Maria have than her sister? So this is very close to the problem that we just did together. You need to use pictures, numbers, and words to solve this problem. Think about it. I don't need to know how many her sister has. I know that Maria has 9 pennies and her sister has 5. I want to know how many more Maria has than her sister. So you're going to follow the steps that we did together to solve this problem. Are you going to be putting anything together or taking something away to figure out how many more Maria has? So go ahead and solve that on a piece of paper by yourself, pictures, numbers, and words. And then at the bottom, as always, it says Dreambox. Give the name of the games you played. So write down the names of the games that you played on Dreambox. Then we have our science part for today. It says, use the drawing or plant project that you made on day 3. So remember a few days ago, day 3, you were asked to draw a picture of a plant and label the different parts, or you could get creative and use things like pipe cleaners, popsicle sticks, tissue paper, anything you have to make a plant and label its parts. So now we're looking back at that because when we made that, we said, hold on to it because you're going to need it for day 5. Well, that's today. So it says, use the drawing or plant project you made on day 3 to review the different parts of a plant. So look back at the picture that you made where you labeled the parts of a plant and think about what each part does. Kind of go over that again. Then it says, take a tour of the refrigerator and cabinets to find different plant parts that we eat. Complete the I eat all plant parts page and draw a picture of each food and label it. So the I eat all plant parts page in your packet looks like this. And the directions are saying, take a tour of the refrigerator and cabinets. So that means look through your fridge and your cabinets and find different plant parts that you eat and write them down. Then you could do this on the back, draw a picture of each food and label it. So each food that you see, draw a picture and label it. Tell me what it is. Tell me what part of the plant it is. So, for example, if you're looking in your fridge and you find some spinach or cabbage or lettuce, those are all the leaves of a plant. So you could write those things next to leaves. Celery is actually a stem of a plant. So you're looking for the different foods in your fridge, in your pantry, in your kitchen, and you're going to write down what part of the plant they are and draw a picture of that food and label it. So if I found, I'll give you a little hint, a food that is a root would be carrots. Carrots are the root of a plant. Seeds, we've talked about different seeds that we eat. We said, ooh, I'll give you a little hint. Around Halloween time, what's a seed that you might eat while you're carving something? So you're going to list the different parts of a plant that you eat and draw a picture of the foods that you find and tell me what part of the plant they are on the back. So that's what we've got going on for today. You've got plenty to do, and as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and I will answer you as quickly as I can. Just a quick note, next week we are all still observing spring break. So next week we're not going to have any Zooms, and I'm not going to post any of these videos. Everything will start back up again the next week, which will be the week of April 13th through April 17th. So the next day of your packet that I'm going to be on here explaining is day 6, which will be April 13th. So no Zooms and no packet videos next week because it's technically our spring break, even though it kind of feels like we've been on a break with us being home. But I love you guys. I miss you guys. And let me know if you need anything at all. I hope you have a great weekend and a great spring break. Bye.